computer. Okay, we are ready to go. We're welcoming back Terry Gardner. Today's discussion is on teacher self-care. I'm glad that we have worded this as pandemic or not, because even though we're focusing on some pandemic stuff, I love stretching these out to just general self-care, because I think there are things that we can do all the time. Before I let Terry start, I'll do my my plug for our networks. I want to make sure that you guys are checking out the resources that are available to you. First, the DESE website is a great resource for you guys to check out. I know a lot of people email me about things that we want to post and whatnot, so I know there are people on there checking, but the more we can get on there and aware of our resources, the better they'll be. Second, MoShape, our state organization, which Terry is a proud member of. Again, lots of great networking and resources, through virtual conventions, public town hall meetings, lots of great stuff to be a part of. And then third, Shape America, our national organization. Again, tons of great resources and help on national standards, new initiatives coming through, our work with the CDC and other nationwide organizations. So I just want to make sure that you guys are out there checking out all that's available to us, and happy that you guys are checking out this webinar. And this is going to be a good one in our series of 7 or 8 that we've done with you and Sean Neville. Looking forward to this one. So Terry, I'll let you take it away. Tell them a little about yourself, and then we'll get going.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. Great to be here with you again today. And thank you for those of you that have decided to view this webinar. And we appreciate you. We appreciate what you do every day. And we're thankful that you're here to share this with us. So before I say anything about me, today's topic is teacher self-care. And we're going to preface it with, I am by no means an expert in teacher self-care, but I believe strongly in teacher self-care. I've researched it, and I really try to practice the tips that we're going to talk about today. So a little bit about me, and we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but I have been fortunate to be able to teach for 39 years, and I've taught kindergarten through university. So I've got to do the whole span, and was very blessed to be able to do that. I've done a lot of coaching in my past. I was a head coach for 2 sports for decades. And now I do things in my spare time, like the picture that you see on here. I love to kayak. I'm a fly fisher person. I start track meets now that I'm not coaching anymore, so I get to shoot the gun, and that's fun. But I try to stay active in my full-time job now after retirement. Is I am an adopted specialist at the Missouri Schools for Severely Disabled. So super excited to be here with you today and to talk about maybe some ways that we can better care for ourselves. So my first question for you is, how are you feeling? How are you really feeling today? And there's some research out there about this. So Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and a Castle survey, and I'm going to look at my notes because I get tongue-tied on this, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. Those 2 groups got together, conducted a survey, and they found that during this past year, during COVID, the 5 most mentioned feelings among educators like yourself, like Zach, like me, these are the things: anxious, fearful, worried, overwhelmed, and sad. So, wow, that's a little alarming when you think about it, but also when you think about everything that we've dealt with and the ways that we've had to pivot from being face to face, virtual, hybrid, whatever your situation is, that's stressful. So these aren't really surprising. But when we talk about this next slide, it is a little surprising, because I want to compare that first list to the list of 2017. This is pre-pandemic, folks. And this is why we entitled this Pandemic or Not. because in 2017, a similar survey, educators were feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, stressed, tired, but rather than sad, they were feeling happy. So we were still feeling a lot of those same descriptions. We were feeling that, but the difference is sad and happy. The main concern from educators in 2017 was not feeling supported by administrators around challenges related to meeting the needs of their students, high stakes testing, and the curriculum work-life balance. So we're going to try to address some of these things today and see if we can help all of us move forward in a positive way. So I just put this slide on because it made me laugh and I saw Zach smile. So hopefully it makes you smile. And I put on there, is this you? Is this you? Right? Before the pandemic, teachers were already feeling a little burnt out and overwhelmed. And now all this is going on around us that we can't control. The only thing we can control is how we respond to it. So hopefully we can talk about some tools that will help you respond in a positive way. So I guess we need to think about, we know how we feel, but we also need to define, how do we want to feel? How do we want to feel? And sometimes teacher self-care isn't all about bubble baths and bonbons. It sometimes is really getting in touch with yourself, and sometimes it's a little messy. What do you really want to feel about your personal life, about your professional life, about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis? I got more research, folks, and the research says that we want to feel happy, inspired, we want to be valued in everything that we do, we want to feel supported, effective, and respected. So when I look at what we're currently feeling and I look at what we want to feel, whew, that's a pretty big bridge to try to gap. But there are ways to get there. How can we bridge that gap between what we are currently feeling and what we've felt for the last few years and where we want to be? So we're going to go through 10 tips for teachers. We're going to make it simple to help with that work-life balance, to make you feel closer to what you want to feel. How do we get there? Do you like this one, Zach? Doesn't that make you feel happy looking at that picture?
They all make me feel happy. Your images are always so fun.
Okay, this is the first one. This is a big one, you guys, and you've heard it before. It's not the easiest one to do because there's so many things going on that affect what you're doing. But if you can learn to focus on what you can control, it will be a huge impact on how you're feeling. Sometimes we get caught up in things that we can't control. I've had situations that I couldn't control, and I was the only one that was upset about it. No one else was, but I couldn't control it. And I'm like, okay, Terry, who's getting upset about this? You are. Who can control it? Not you. So those are things that we have to be able to let go, but we have to recognize that we can't control it. But that's a big one. Zach, any comments on that one? Do you have any issues with that?
Oh, I usually don't have issues with anything you have to say. No, it's a really hard one for a lot of people to grasp, and sometimes it's hard to, you want to reach out and be able to control some of those things. And it's, being patient enough to try and work on the things that you can control and accept the things that you can't. And I think, balancing that and coming to terms with things you cannot control will help you do better with the things that you can, and kind of letting go of those reins and just accepting things that are out of our control and just learning to adapt. And I think with COVID, we have all learned how to do that more than we have in the past. And so, no, I think this is a really important one.
Absolutely. The things that we can control, we know this, the things that we can control at work are the interaction with our student and what's happening in my classroom every day. Those relationships, I can control that. I may not be able to control what people with a higher pay grade than me. I can't control those decisions that they make, but I can control how I respond to it. It doesn't mean that you don't stick up for yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't advocate for yourself and for your program, but it does mean that you focus on those students in that classroom and what you can control. Tip number 1, we're ready for number 2. Maintaining your own health. And that is something that we can control, you guys. It's hard because there's a lot that takes away. Teachers, we tend to care about everybody else first before we take care of ourselves. But I call it care to care. We have to take care of ourselves to be able to help and care for those around us. We of all people know what that involves. We need to try to eat right. We need to try to get enough sleep. That means shutting down at a certain time so that we can focus on ourselves. Some of us like to work late into the night or have our iPads on until right before we fall asleep. We know that's not good for us. So we need to try to set some barriers and really attend to those, really stick to those. It also means trying to work in things that we do enjoy. I love to walk, I love to read, I love to play pickleball. Someone asked me, how do you find time to do that? Because I'm super busy. I do a lot of stuff, but I build it into my regular schedule. And it has to be that way. And you can't let other things push it aside. What are some things you like to do, Zach?
Gosh, a ton. The one thing I'll piggyback on what you said is, just making time for what you enjoy and to maintain your own health. Luckily for me, and I think you're the same way, where a lot of my mental health stems from what I enjoy from a physical health perspective, where I like to be active. I enjoy cooking, so eating healthy is always kind of fun for me because I try new recipes. A lot of my health relates to, I do a lot of coaching, whether it be, athletic performance or strength and conditioning. Those are things that for my mental health, I really enjoy doing, but also for my physical health, I get to be active and do some of that with them. And so, you got to be healthy, mentally and physically to be able to best serve our students and our staff or wherever we might be. So we have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of others. And I will agree 100% with what you said. Well, that's tough for a lot of us. We are educators by nature, are student first. What can I do for my students? And sometimes we put ourselves in the back seat to take care of them. And while there are a lot of things that I love about that, we do need to take care of ourselves in order to best take care of those around us. And so it's making sure that we make time on our schedules and take a phone call as you're on a walk, or there are a lot of ways that we can kind of fit in our busy schedules, but try and find ways that fit with your individual schedule to make that happen.
Hey, Zach, we're going to have to try to do a webinar while we're walking sometime. That would be fun.
I have done that. It is a lot of fun, except for the Wi-Fi connection is spotty sometimes. But speaking of that, when we get back to school, and I won't take too much time on this. At my last district, I incorporated walking lecture, where I had teachers that we would have certain lectures where we would get out and they had a certain path they would walk as they lectured. And so we would move away from the classroom and get out and be active and talk about things as we're moving. And I love that idea about doing, walking meetings, walking lectures, anything we can do to be a little active and change our environment, I think is a great idea.
That's awesome. We did something similar at the high school that I taught at. We did a walk with the principal, and students petitioned to be able to go on that walk with our main principal, our lead principal, and talk about issues that they wanted to see addressed and changed and solutions for some of those issues with the principal. And it was just called Walk with the Principal, and it was once a week, and it was awesome. It was a great idea. So one other thing I want to mention about maintaining your own health. I know Zach is like this, but I am notorious for overbooking myself. I because I don't want to say no to people if they ask me to do something. I want to help and I want to contribute. But I just want to say to you, it's okay to say no. And I have one friend, I have a accountability friend, and that's a good way to you have someone that you trust that keeps you accountable. I call her my accountability friend. She says, she makes me practice this. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I would love to help, but I am too busy right now and I have to say no. She makes me practice. Isn't that awesome? So it's okay to say no and to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So, another area of our health that will impact our ability to respond better to what's going on around us is to keep moving. We know the benefits, absolute benefits of moving. Dr. John Rady is from Harvard Medical School. If you need some research to support that, look at some of the stuff that he puts on Twitter. It's amazing. It totally impacts our ability to think better, feel better. And Zach mentioned our emotional health. We know there's a strong tie between activity and emotional health. So anything that you can do to include moving, and if you're at your desk a lot, set a little alarm, or if you have a Fitbit or something like that, it'll remind you to get up. Even getting up and stretching or taking a short walk around your activity area is going to help you feel better. Any comments about that, Zach? You know what that's.
Yeah, 100%. It's get those, a lot of the research, all the data you'll see is increasing movement and activity, exercise releases those endorphins, which helps you with that emotional and mental well-being. So it's good stuff.
Yep. You know what? We should have built into this webinar time to stand up, do a few stretches or something. You guys press pause and go take a quick walk around wherever you're listening to this and come back to us and continue watching. So the next tip is self-compassion. And I want to read this because I wanted to really look at what self-compassion is defined as. It's defined as being compassionate with oneself in instances of perceived inadequacy, failure, or general suffering. And the reason I bring that up is so many teachers right now don't feel like they're doing enough. And I'm going to say to you right now, you're doing enough. It's okay. I can't believe how many we have at my school right now. We have professional learning communities, and we meet once a week. And the number of teachers in my small community, my professional learning community, that feel like what they're doing right now is not good enough is alarming. So I think you have to give yourself some grace, especially with what we've talked about with COVID-19, with what we've had to do and how we've had to respond. And just in general, it's okay. You are doing the best you can, and that's what's important. You may not have the perfect lesson. And sometimes I listened to a teacher earlier today that was talking about, you know what? Sometimes the lessons have to go out the window and you have to focus on what's right in front of you. So I just want to bring that up. Be compassionate, be kind to yourself, be mindful of what we're dealing with right now. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a break and know that what you're doing is enough. We all care so much about our students, about our schools, about our curriculum. But I just really believe that teachers are working so hard now trying to do the very best that they can, and that's okay.
Everybody's a first-year teacher this year. That's
Mm-hmm.
the best way that I've been wording it. Is this is our first year in this type of education and what we've gone through for all of us. So it's okay to have it not go exactly the way that we hope it goes every other year, because it's been an unexpected journey this year. So I think we're doing fantastic for the challenges that we've been facing.
Absolutely. And we've learned so much. I have learned so much in this last year. And Zach and I and another group of people are doing another webinar, if you get a chance to watch it, about moving forward. How are we going to take what we learn and move forward in a positive way? So that's coming later, but this ties right into that. Trying to really focus on what we've learned in this situation and move forward. I don't like a back to normal. I want a new and better normal than what we had before. So the next one, be realistic about expectations for yourself and for others around you. Right now, everybody's struggling. Not just teachers, policymakers, administrators, our students, and our families are struggling. So I'm going to share a call to action with you in a little bit. And to be successful with that call to action, you're going to have to be realistic about your situation. What do you think, Zach?
I'm ready. I'm like looking
You
forward to
ready?
I'm looking forward to our new norm. I think that education is going to be a whole new environment once we come back and we're back on our new shift. It's going to be interesting to see. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Students,
Awesome.
students everywhere are upset that there's no such thing as a snow day anymore, because we're so well equipped for virtual learning that snow days aren't going to happen.
I'll tell you what, if we have snow days after all this, we are crazy. That's definitely one thing that's going to be an outcome of all this. We're all able to teach in a virtual platform after what we've done this past year. So no more snow days, folks. Zach and I are announcing it from now on. Neither one of us have that authority, but we're making that decision. Okay, this is another one that happens in your schools. I hear people apologizing. Quit apologizing. This isn't your fault. This is not your fault. And it's what is it about teachers that we try to take on the weight of the world? We take on everything that's happening around us and we apologize for things, like we said earlier, that are out of our control. So I put this in the slide because I catch myself saying it. I catch myself saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," when it's not my fault. So I'm not saying you can't feel bad about what's going on. Just recognize that it's not your fault. We are doing, once again, the best that we can in this situation, and teachers should be commended for keeping it all together and moving things forward. Right? Amen.
Be happy and proud of what we're able to do, not disappointed in the things we're not able to do.
Absolutely. Boy, that was clear and concise right there, which leads to our next tip, communication. Be transparent in your communication. Clear, straightforward, and consistent communication with other teachers in the building, with your administration, with your parents, and with your students all create an opportunity for success. When we're transparent, we are revealing a credible, honest teacher, person, right? I don't feel like I can hide the truth of our situation from those around us. So it's really important for us to be clear and honest, and that allows us to build trust and be partners with everyone around us. Then we can all work together. We can tackle those challenges together, and that's really important. If you're working from home, and hopefully most of us um, are going to be back in the schools, at least in some form, probably a hybrid form if you're not already. I have been face to face with my students all summer and this entire year. So my situation might be different than yours. But if you are working at home, and I still do some work after school and in the evenings before I shut down, it's really nice if you can create a dedicated space at your home. And like I said before, set those boundaries, create that dedicated work time. I taught virtual at the high school in a summer school program, and it was the first time I'd done totally virtual. It was crazy. I was I was connected to my computer 24/7. If a student emailed me at 10 o'clock, I felt like I needed to respond. So when I talked to another teacher that had taught in a virtual platform, and they told me to set those definite work hours, it made a huge difference in how I felt about teaching in a virtual platform. So if you can do that, if you can create that dedicated work time and that dedicated space that feels good to you, that'll really help in teaching if you're working at home. This is a big one, folks. We need to use the resources around us. If you need help, ask for help. There are all kinds of resources out there, and we're going to talk about a few of those. But you can see here Tom Lowry, he's the director of MoShape. You've got Zach, who's the director for health and physical education at DESE. You've got my contact information. If we can't help you directly, we will get in touch with someone that can. And Zach is awesome, you guys. You need to use him as a resource. He loves talking with teachers and interacting. Tom and I love talking with teachers and trying to help and move people forward. So don't don't hesitate to use the resources around you. Zach, do you want to add to that? Because
one thing I'll say is if you guys contact me for help, you're indirectly contacting Tom and Terry also, because there aren't many issues that happen in our state where our large cohort doesn't discuss together at one of our meetings. And so it is the one thing that I will say about this and about asking for help and needing help is this situation has created a huge community of practice all over the world. And it's been really amazing in that aspect where teachers that we may see every once in a while, or principals, superintendents, advocates, whoever it might be, that we maybe see once a year at a convention or see them here and there, we get to talk with them all the time because these online webinars and meetings are so much more prevalent now. And I had a meeting with the district coordinator earlier today where he said that his staff would get together maybe 2 or 3 times a year for curriculum ideas and adaptations and whatnot. And now they get to meet once a week because they don't have to be in the same spot. They can do it on their computers. And that's just an amazing thing. And so the needing help and asking for help is so much, we are all so much more reachable now because it's just, we're quick email, quick Zoom call. And if you contact me, I almost guarantee I'm going to ask you to get on a Zoom call because I like being face to face because we're all at home. And so I almost guarantee if you want anything, oh sure, I'll set up a Zoom call. Let's talk about it because I love to hash all those things out face to face as close as we can get. So
absolutely. And Zach already mentioned, go to the websites, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and we're always sharing resources. And And I know Zach's the same, but on my Twitter account or if I'm working with MoShape Facebook, I only share items that are vetted and that are quality practices. So please follow us. Go to the DESI website. There are so many resources on there, and the MoShape website and Shape America website. Those are all great websites. I talked earlier about castle.org. That's a great resource. They have all kinds of free resources for educators, but there's a lot out there. I'm not I'm not saying that there's everything you need, but there's a lot. So just it's hard to take the time to go through it, but if you focus on what Zach talked about with DESI, MoShape, and Shape America, you know that those resources are quality, credible resources for you to access.
I would say that it's impossible to have a question about physical education or health education that you could not get an answer at one of those three organizations. I would challenge someone to think of a question about that I or someone in those three organizations could not answer thoroughly. And so, if we don't, Terry and I don't have the answer, we will know the people that will, and we will put you in contact with them. And I'll probably show up also, because if I don't know it, I want to learn it. And so we'll be there too.
Absolutely. And lastly, but definitely not least, share your experience with others. If you find something that really works and it was successful and your students benefit from it, share that with other people, whether it's on social media or contact Zach or I. Please share those resources with the people around you in your school, in your district, and in your state. It's an opportunity to help others, and that also makes you feel better about yourself if you're impacting what's going on around us. So I would encourage you to do that. Okay, you ready for my call to action? One of the opportunities that they created at my school, they have a behavioral therapist that has challenged our teachers to get on sessions to really talk about our current social and emotional wellness as teachers. And it's a great opportunity. This is one of the statements that she shared with us. What's one thing, just one thing under your control that you can do today to feel more of what you want to feel? So this goes back to that very first thing that we talked about in this webinar. What are we feeling? How do we want to feel? And what focus on what you can control. So what's one thing, I'm going to challenge you to really think about this and do it. What's that one thing that you can do today and each day that will make you feel more like what you want to feel? And if you can ask yourself that question every day and respond in a positive way, I think you're going to start feeling more like those adjectives about how we want to feel. Yes? Do I hear a yes?
I can give my example that I think it'll impact a lot of people. Is the one thing that I miss that I want to feel more of is connection with people. And I know that I am not the only person that feels that way, but the way that I attack that is I find ways to connect. And I love being on campuses and meeting with teachers, meeting with students, and I don't get as much time to do that now as I used to. But even virtually, I find ways to find my way into a meeting, find my way into a discussion with teachers. And like this morning, I got to be a part of a curriculum department meeting with Springfield Public Schools in physical education. So Brad Brummels, who's their coordinator, who's a great guy, led an amazing discussion about tag units covering grade level expectations and how to teach certain differences in the classroom. It was only an hour-long meeting, but just being with him and his dozen or so teachers that were part of the meeting, being with groups like that just makes you feel like you're a part of that community still, and you're not alone. You're not just staring at your screen, but you're staring at a screen, and so is everybody else. So we're all sharing that together. And even though we don't get to be maybe on campus as much as we want to, or with our students as much as we want to, reaching out and connecting with different groups and just being a part of either MoShape or being a part of any kind of advocacy committee for physical education or whatever you may be interested in your spare time, just getting out and being a part of whatever community of practice that might be. It just brings you so much closer to your community, and it helps you get through those times where I like to be a part of that community and like to be around those people. And if I can't be with them in person, I'm going to find every meeting possible to, virtually shake hands and virtually introduce myself and be a part of a discussion. And like today I got to give a fun demonstration of a fun tag game that I've done in the past, and some different classroom management strategies to the teachers that I'd never met. And it's just fun to have those conversations and be a part of those communities and still get to meet people even though we can't get out there quite yet.
Absolutely. And it's going to get better. And it's our new normal is going to be better than our normal before. And I hope that all of you that are watching this webinar, that you feel connected to Zach and I, and that you've gotten to know us a little bit better. And we just really appreciate everything that you as an educator are doing to face the challenges, not just COVID, but the challenges that we face in education in general. So we appreciate you. We look forward to sharing more webinars in the next month. So keep in touch with those. Please get in touch with us if you have any questions, and we're all going to move forward stronger together to our new normal. And take care. Don't be afraid to ask us if you need help.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.